Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee meeting at Community Board 1. 4 items on our agenda tonight. We're going to go just a bit out of order. Wait for one more committee member to help us, and we're going to start with item number 2 on our agenda, which is an update on this is one portion of the mayor's City of Yes initiative. This is the Department of City Planning's City of Yes proposal. You may remember that we previously approved the first part of the City of Yes initiative, which is the zoning for carbon neutrality. Zoning text amendment, which actually passed the Department of City Planning today. Hi, Jason. We now have quorum. No, we're good. Matt and Ezra from the Department of City Planning are here to give us a brief update. So just to orient everybody, we are not on the clock. It has not yet certified, but this is an effort by the applicant, Department of City Planning, to give us a preview and an update. In addition to community events that they're doing to try to update voters as well. So, gentlemen.
And I will note that short is not exactly something that it will be. Our presentation is about 45 minutes runtime, and we, obviously welcome the opportunity for questions afterwards. So, in case that, now that there is quorum, if that influence, that's okay.
Respectfully, that is not what we bargained for. If there's any way you can summarize it in about 10 minutes, that's really what we're looking for. 10, 15 minutes.
20.
Okay, fine, 20.
22.5.
That would be good. If not,
yeah, we can take a stab at that. Why not? There may lead to more questions, but I think, something that's important to note is that this will be, again, there are going to be 2 public info sessions in September. One of them is tomorrow night. And the referral is anticipated to be October 2nd. So, we'll be returning for your October 5th committee meeting.
So Ezra, to make it a deal, one question from committee members only, that we don't have too many questions, and then cut it.
The whole goal for the committee was that you could get a preview of what's going on. And it's not for Ezra to answer the questions, it's for Ezra to take the questions back. So when they do come and we are on the clock, they will be able to give us answers back. Fair enough?
Yes, fair enough.
Awesome.
So I think maybe a more interactive way of doing this is here's a summary of the proposal. We have slides for every single one of these initiatives. And if you want, we can try to sorry, speak louder.
We need to make it larger on the screen.
And then maybe we'll cherry pick the ones that affect us the most after we get everyone gets a chance to read them. Joe knows what he wants to talk about.
This is as big as I can.
Yeah, that's good. That looks good.
Okay, just tell me if I need to scroll to the side. But if any of these jump out to you, let me know and we can go to it and, provide the information from that slide.
So I guess, Ezra, I can start.
Are they going to make it larger, or is this it?
This is it,
Yeah, if you want to switch with me, you
can read them.
Well,
No.
I assume someone's going to read the 18 of these or not.
Yeah, we can start going through them and just give a little bit of a preview on each, and then based on what feels most relevant, we can zoom into those with the 20 or so minutes that we're working with, if that works for other people. So these 18 proposals fall into 4 overarching goals. The first of which is to expand options for businesses to locate. So for a little bit of background, DCP has identified a number of ways that the zoning currently inhibits the ability for businesses to operate in areas or expand in areas where it just frankly makes sense. And so there's an effort to increase flexibility. So to go through them individually, one is to enable businesses to locate on ground floor storefronts. There are currently current rules that prohibit certain sorts of businesses from being on the ground floor. They could only be on the second floor, for example. And an example of that would be like an art studio or a clothing rental shop. That would be an example of something that we're trying to kind of break down the restrictions that they'd be able to be on the ground floor as well. Then we're going to kind of removing these arbitrary distinctions between zoning districts that are very much aligned. Like, for example, if you are walking down the street that kind of straddles the border between, you know, a C1 or a C2 district, or in Lower Manhattan's case, it could be maybe a C4 or C5. There are many very arbitrary distinctions between businesses that can operate on one side of the street versus the other, even though both sides of the street look very much like cut from the same cloth in terms of neighborhood character. For example, if you wanted to open up a bike sales shop, you could do it maybe on the right-hand side of the street. But if you wanted to actually rent bikes, or you could only do it on the other side of the street. So that's an example of like these sorts of distinctions feel like they really just get in the way of common sense kind of supporting our local businesses. So that's one area. And we can happily go more in depth, but that's kind of the elevator pitch for that one. We're also, the third proposal looks to expand opportunities for small scale clean manufacturing and production. So this could be anything from food and beverage making to jewelry making, things along those lines that don't really have this classic idea in our minds of like what industry or manufacturing looks like. They don't have, you know, the sound and air pollution that we often associate with manufacturing. And the idea would be to allow those sorts of operations to occur in commercial districts. Go to the next one, Ezra. Also, the fourth proposal is looking to expand options for businesses that are above the ground floor. So today, the zoning text allows for many buildings to have a mix of residential and commercial uses, but oftentimes businesses are not allowed to be on the upper floors. And so this, you know, limits various uses within buildings and also reduces the ability for buildings to adapt over time. So, so like an example of this would be, actually, I'm trying, in the essence of time, I'm trying to skip through some of my notes a little bit.
Basically, if you want, I can just take a quick one on this, and
yeah,
that essentially we're going to be, you know, allowing commercial on the same floors as residential in certain districts, permitted that it's like, you know, very much separated from the residential uses. And it would also allow with like separate cores and entrances, like a rooftop type of commercial establishment in, you know, and these are of course in districts where these types of uses are permitted above residential floors. So yeah, that's really the gist of it. And this is more for like high density districts.
Right.
This one also, do you want to take, Matt, or do you want me to? I mean,
yeah, sure.
again,
I can quickly go over it. Yeah. So basically a lot of like loft styled buildings, in a lot of areas of where they were once legally built by the, like according to the zoning code, they are no longer able to be constructed. So Proposal 5 is trying to kind of increase the zoning tools that developers and business owners have to be able to build those sorts of buildings again in kind of job intensive zoning districts. So this is a part of the second goal of supporting growing industries. So in the last couple of years, life sciences has been like a growing sector in New York City. And so similarly to other, you know, slides that we're going to show, DCP is trying to get zoning to kind of get out of the way and allow for more flexibility for these uses. And so unless a life science business like poses a environmental hazard, this proposal would allow them to locate in commercial areas under this proposal. And they would still be, you know, all sorts of environmental regulations would still be in place to make sure that everything's above board, but it would allow them to locate in more areas throughout the city. This is another one that has to do with bulk. So there are growing businesses and sectors such as like the film sector that often runs into issues where zoning regulations essentially they run into regulations associated with minimum height for buildings that, like they're kind of their setback requirements. And if a business is in a district, already in a district, and it can't conform to these regulations, this proposal would allow them to apply for relief from certain zoning restrictions related to building bulk. This is also, okay, so this is another like really interesting one. So this is trying to modernize and, honestly make the way that zoning addresses nightlife to be less confusing. So currently there are a lot of very antiquated in place that, kind of the zoning itself is regulating, activities like dancing. And we think like the department is looking for ways to, in an effort to make areas more vibrant, to, allow for greater flexibility. So for example, I can give one quick example. So under this proposal, if a business is situated on a neighborhood commercial street, you would be able to have dancing or shows like, a live comedy show, for example, in that business. If that business has a maximum occupancy of 200 people or less, which is the typical size of a storefront. Sometimes bars and restaurants do create concerns in the local community. And so throughout this process of developing this proposal, DCP is coordinated with the Mayor's Office of Nightlife, the State Liquor Authority, the fire department, and all these different relevant actors to ensure that this would still maintain a quality of life despite these changes.
Do you want to just quickly reemphasize the dancing distinction? So like the removal of the dancing piece?
Sure. So let me just look at my notes real quick. So for example, a zoning, like if there is a restaurant or a bar that is allowed to have live music currently in a commercial district, it would be prohibited from allowing a band to charge a cover or to advertise a show time, or also have different sorts of events like open mics or comedy shows. And dancing is one of those uses that there are restrictions on. Ezra, I think just because we're going through it quickly, I don't know if I glossed over the part that you wanted me to spend more time on.
Sure. I believe that there's some arbitrary, we'll keep going. We can answer more questions on that later.
Sure. So this is amusements related. So currently a lot of like the zoning code restricts amusements, different kinds of amusements, essentially to Coney Island and industrial areas. And the department, the way it views the current zoning code is that it just hasn't kept up with newer family-friendly activities, things like, trampoline parks or virtual reality centers, things along those lines, things that have become very popular in areas, right across the Hudson or up in Westchester. So we're proposing to simplify and modernize these regulations to allow them to be both indoors and at a much smaller scale when they're situated in neighborhood commercial corridors, and to allow them to also be on a slightly larger scale and more centrally located in higher density areas like Midtown. And so we're aware of the state's gaming commission's work on casinos, and DCP is continuing to work with City Hall and City Council to understand whether there are zoning implications that would need to be addressed to enable this process. And so this is an aspect of the proposal that is still very much a work in progress, because there's just so many actors involved. And so there's more information will be provided down the road. This has to do with kind of the discrepancies, you know, different regulations with outdoor versus indoor space. So there's a part of the zoning code having to do with enclosure rules. For example, if you're a florist, it might be unclear how much of your business can actually be outdoors or indoors. Although things like urban agriculture, outdoor urban agriculture and greenhouses within commercial areas, it is clear zoning wise what is able to be done. There is ambiguity regarding things like greenhouses that are completely enclosed within commercial areas. So DCP wants to clarify that indoor agriculture, like growing, you know, hydroponic tomatoes, for example, that is a permitted use, that would be permitted in commercial areas. And if someone were to obtain a license from New York State, growing cannabis would also be permitted in those areas. Now going down to, okay, so this is an effort to make sure that we cut down on storefront vacancy. So this is perhaps a little bit less applicable in CB1, but in many of our city's commercial corridors, there are thousands of storefronts that are in residential areas. And many of them have been there, you know, they predate the 1961 zoning text. They would not be able to be created for the first time today, whereas they were grandfathered in. And up until now, these sorts of storefronts, if they go vacant for more than 2 years in most residential areas, they cannot be reoccupied. And this commercial space will need to essentially remain vacant. And as the city is trying to really incentivize as many businesses to start up and take over these spaces as possible, DCP is proposing to remove this 2-year clock to allow new businesses to reoccupy these spaces.
This one, I mean, we can just
yeah,
skip this
we could probably
altogether.
skip. This is
Hopefully
definitely
applicable in
not
CB1.
applicable. Yeah, exactly. This is much more about, you know, corner stores and much more less dense areas. Okay, so this is kind of updating the regulations that have to do with home occupation. So currently, if you are a lawyer or a music teacher, you're allowed to today regularly have clients visit your home, but that isn't the case for a barber or an interior designer. So DCP is seeking to remove, you know, these inequities and update regulations to kind of extend this ability for at-home home-based occupations for other sorts of professions. That doesn't mean that those, you know, new folks that are allowed to do this, they still need to be good neighbors. They can't have exterior signage. They still need to abide by noise and environmental rules. They can't sell things that are produced off of site. But this is an effort to allow more people to work out of their homes if it's appropriate. Okay, so DCP is also proposing special streetscape rules to establish consistent and easy to understand like baseline sets of rules for commercial ground floor design, and one that's more responsive to, especially in areas with greater pedestrian activity, and that might be a bit more relaxed and auto-oriented commercial corridors. So oftentimes, you know, there are certain areas that the way that the streetscape is, it doesn't incentivize economic vibrancy and is just in some situations just simply unpleasant for passing residents. So these new streetscape proposals are hoping to kind of improve the overall look and feel of streetscapes to incentivize economic activity. Our zoning today also has outdated and frankly difficult to enforce regulations around small scale wholesale and storage businesses, which makes it hard to facilitate the kind of neighborhood-based hubs for safe and sustainable deliveries that we think are important for the city's future. And so this proposal would clarify that wholesale and storage businesses are permitted in commercial areas, but at a limited scale. we would also ensure that these spaces contribute to the vibrancy of surrounding areas through certain streetscape regulations. And for example, one of those would be, transparent windows in areas with greater pedestrian activity. Okay, and then this is the overarching goal number 4. So to clarify and modernize rules. So basically, there are, in most cases, our use rules that the department has used for the last 60 years haven't really been updated to reflect changes in business practices and the economy. The text is quite antiquated and has a lot of terms that are very out of date. So, for example, zoning identifies where specifically telegraph offices can locate, but it's much less clear about where a cell phone repair shop can go. So this proposal does 3 different things to make it easier for small businesses, city agencies, and just the general public understand where uses are allowed. And so first, we're reorganizing the categories we have of uses that we have in zoning to have more coherent categories based off of business sectors and building types. We're also proposing to modernize the definitions we have for retail, services, and manufacturing, so they better align with the city's current economy. And in some special districts, we use definitions that are, like typewriter repair and things like that are antiquated. So kind of going through those like with a fine comb and updating language to make everything more understandable for New Yorkers. And last but not least, this is modernizing rules related to loading. So today, if a building tenant changes from being, let's say, an office to one, it's becoming a makerspace or other sorts of manufacturing business, the zoning code would require them to change the amount of parking. It may not require them to change parking that they provide, but it may actually force them to add an additional loading dock, regardless of whether the new tenant would need to use them at all. So GCP is putting forth a proposal that would take away that mandate. So basically, people don't need to create completely unnecessary loading docks when there's not a need for it. And this would enable more adaptive reuse of existing buildings and save people a lot of money by not having to do completely unnecessary construction for those new loading bays. So the team has been, that has been leading this initiative has spent the summer in front of many different audiences and speaking with stakeholders, presenting ideas. And there will be additional information sessions, one of which is happening tomorrow night at 7, which we definitely encourage everyone to join if they're able to. So next month, this will be referred to all 59 community boards, and we anticipate that the city council vote will occur next spring. Perfect. Yeah, so these are all of them one time over. We did, in the essence of time, go really quick through a lot of things. So I apologize if it was just kind of drinking from a fire hose, but there will be opportunities, tomorrow being one of them, to really do a deep dive and get more information and be able to ask more questions. So like Ezra said at the very beginning, we're happy to hear any and all questions and concerns folks have, and we'll be kind of collecting as much of these as possible to relay them to the team that's spearheading this effort to make sure that they're aware of CB1's thoughts.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ezra. I will say I'm kind of glad we did go through this at level because while it's a lot to take in, I think more detail would have been drinking further from the fire hose. And I think we might have had some fatigue halfway through because this is a lot. So my quick question is, if folks have a concern or a question or an interest in one of the 18 specific proposals that make up this entire application, is there a place where they can go just take a deep dive if they want?
In terms of, oh, whoops. Sorry, 1 second. So I was going to say that we have a generic email that, to answer questions on it. But I think that, if you want like more specifics on a given one of these specific proposals, just send Matt and I the question, and we can like follow up with the central team. Hopefully, that's actually a more expedient way of getting you the info you want, and we can get into the more, specific contours of how it affects your community board.
Okay, appreciate that. And for the studious folks who want to really read the whole proposal, you can go to the zoning application portal.
Yeah. So yes, and this is the economic opportunity. Sorry, I had to restart my PowerPoint here. I assume this is all visible for everybody.
All right, so
Yeah,
in
it is.
exchange for you guys doing a briefer presentation, which I really appreciate, I said we will allow the committee members up to one question. So I was trying to go around the room to see if anybody has a question I had asked. So we'll start with Laura.
Have you coordinated these with DOT?
I think some of the policy development's been coordinated with DOT, but nothing that, Matt and I have been involved with is coordinated with them. But if they're, a lot of these initiatives are like obviously very intrinsically related to DOT's purview. So my assumption is yes, but I can't speak specifically to it.
Jason.
I know that for some of these proposals, like for example, the one relating to micro distribution, I know that the department has worked very closely with DOT in recent months, but Ezra and I can definitely get back to you on those discussions have looked like.
All the nuance within each proposal. Sorry, Jason. I don't have anything good. Joe?
Well, it's all apple pie to me. It all looks good, but given what we have now, I don't know where to go.
A lot, right?
It's a lot, and it all seems good, like you proposals are, but we know there are little loopholes here and there.
Michael?
I would be wondering about the interaction between residents and people who are working in home businesses, who have customers coming in and out of buildings. I think it's going to be a very tricky thing that one size doesn't fit all. So I think you're going to have to rethink that very carefully.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know that we have some kind of discussions about the home occupations have to be good neighbors, but we can get more specifics on what does that mean.
Yeah, I mean, certainly frequency, maybe one person will come in to see a lawyer, but, a dozen people might come in to see a barber.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point.
And presumably condo and co-op restrictions still apply, right? So in other words, if your building doesn't allow occupational use.
So
Right, well, he didn't answer.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not sure off the top of my head about whether that would supersede zoning, and I assume this is an easy answer to find out, but I can't speak to it this time. So that's when we can run back and get to as well.
Not
Netta?
I think I have 50 questions
Right.
on each category of them, and I think it's very loose for me to have one specific question. I think each one of them could potentially be really good, or potentially can completely change the city and neighborhood. So I'm probably gonna go on that website and do a bit of reading.
Okay. Okay. Megan? Yes? Rosa?
yes, I have a lot of.
good.
Okay,
If I speak towards the mic.
Okay, sorry, if I only have one, since you covered the residential and commercial overlay concern, then my question would be related to the micro delivery. What is the incentive for delivery companies to pay rent rather than use the free sidewalk and street space that they have currently? So that, I mean, obviously, I agree with the goal of moving that business work into an actual business location versus having it litter all over our already very taxed public spaces, especially downtown, but why would they pay money? Like, what's the structure for them to be able to actually want to move inside?
And that's a good question. Again, I don't think we can speak too specifically to it, but I would guess that some of the conditions you're speaking about are illegal and just poorly enforced. But you know, we can get you a clear answer on that.
And Alice?
I mean, it demos, thanks for the presentation. I see it like as a formula towards Sodom and Gomorrah here with the amusement parks, licensing of cannabis inside and out and all such things. That's fascinating. I guess the one that interests me, and perhaps it's just a matter of reading the text itself, which I have not done, but the bulk release, the limiting of bulk release, I wasn't sure I fully captured that one. Is that something you could just direct me to read something? I won't waste anyone's time here. Or expand on it.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear the question. Can you please
Oh,
repeat that? I mean,
the number 7, the limited bulk relief. If you
Yes,
could
for film
expand on that or
studios.
direct me where I would.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much that I can at this point, but my understanding is that it's really supposed to be targeted around, again, certain types of businesses that need higher floor to ceiling heights. And so this would be for like, you know, street wall setback and building height if it's like a certain kind of use. I mean, I'm aware that community boards are always, you know, very, you know, reasonably cognizant of the potential for, you know, loopholes or exploitation, but certainly as this has been, you know, described to us, it's to permit certain uses that, you know, very much need extra floor to floor heights.
Tammy?
Yeah. It's a matter of process. The proposal is 18 parts, with each part being extraordinarily complicated. Even though you're saying it's very simple, the amount of study needed to understand the potential loopholes for any individual community board and how it applies to them in historic districts or mixed use, for example, for us, will take an extraordinarily long time, very different than the timeline allows. And I have extraordinary concerns that you have 18 proposals being given at once. Is there any consideration that this would be separated out into as many as 3 sections, so you are only doing 6 at a time, which even in itself seems really huge? Because I would think as a board, we would have to do a resolution on each one of the proposals because there's nothing really holistic connecting them.
Very much understood. I don't think that at this point they would be separated out in terms of how they're going to be referred. I can ask if there's, you know, again, we allow beyond the 60-day referral period for, you know, if votes for a committee and or like an executive committee or a full board fall outside of that window. But, you know, we can ask if, you know, they're intending any flexibility beyond that to allow, you know, ample time to review and, you know, consider, because, you know, your point is very well taken.
When you come and present to Community Board 1, will you be able to contextualize how this would completely work in our community board? That was not something that was done for the last one. There was lots of examples of how things might work on the beach, front properties out by in Queens and Brooklyn, but less conversation of how it worked in a mixed use or historic district. Would you be able to do that for the community board?
The hope is to be able to do that at the earliest possible juncture. Whether that's, you know, the October meeting when, you know, it will have just been referred, or whether, you know, we're able to really drill down on it further for the November meeting, that is a bit TBD. And hopefully we can, you know, enlist some help from, you know, folks who are more intimately familiar with the text and its creation. And again, it's still, you know, there are aspects that are being firmed up currently. It hasn't been, you know, referred yet. And even with, you know, the October release. It's an ambitious timetable. So understood. We hope to be able to, at some point within the referral period, obviously, so we can have like a very lucid discussion on this. And we hope to be able to do that at on October 5th. But, recognizing that it will be freshly referred then, and, there still may be extra layers to drill down for us in understanding how it affects you guys.
Matt and Ezra, I just pinged you guys as well to see if you could send to me and Tammy, even right now, if you don't mind, a link to the application in the zoning application portal, so I can get that information out to folks right now. So people can really take on the entire application, even if it's just the project description, and go through it and try to figure some of this out. It's just a lot to go through, a lot to get through. Richard, I see your hand is up. Mr. Corman, if you unmute, sir.
Yeah, thanks. My question is a little broader, perhaps. What's the thinking about review, oversight, and enforcement, particularly in terms of the potential environmental impacts of some of these things, and of course, many of them quality of life impacts? But what's the thinking on those issues?
I would think I can speak to it, but since I haven't conferred with the people who are drafting this, I'll just wait to answer that. I want to take that back and come back with a more specific answer.
Okay.
Other hands online. Does anybody else in the room have a question?
I just want to speak to the ZAP piece as well, because I'm not actually sure that there is a ZAP file for this created that would be publicly facing. It happens to just be the case with a lot of city sponsored initiatives that because there's not like a draft application process, like it's filed usually close to referral. And so that might be like the first instance in which a ZAP page for it is publicly facing. Typically with private applications, this happens like much earlier in at an earlier juncture, because we're doing kind of like a formal internal review and then sending it back to them. And so we can search, but I'm not sure offhand if there's a ZAP record open for it yet that we public facing.
I'm very sure zoning for carbon neutrality, when it was this close to referral, was available. And I'd be shocked if this isn't, and I think that would be, how the hell are we supposed to know what we're reviewing? We don't have the information in front of us, other than a presentation, lovely presentation and all, but we'd like to read the details in fine print, please.
We were riffing on this one, of course. Lovely. I appreciate that. But, we understand that we're coming to you at a like really high level without, some of the details that we'd like to have. And again, the community board will be furnished with a full copy at referral, but I'll run that up and see if there's anything that's publicly available right now for you guys to peruse, because, of course, this is, comprehensive, and, we want to afford the community board as much time as needed to be able to opine on it reasonably.
Yeah, and that's why we need it sooner rather than later, right? Like something this comprehensive, something this expensive, we need really soon. I mean, it's not a tiny application that we can wait until the referral period, it seems to me.
And I think the concern I have for Ezra and Matt is that it is unlike any of the other ones you brought to us. This touches far more different types of zoning changes. This is not, foster vibrant neighborhoods. You have people who will tell you that having a amusement park film studio is not about their neighborhood, right? Small. There's so many different things to it. Understanding how the having, one thing if you have somebody who sees one client, what if it's a doctor? What if it's, an actor's casting call and you have 50 people showing up to an apartment building, right? So there's so many things that really don't seem to be handled or conversation-wise in here that is in a especially where Alice is going as well with the ability for some of the commercial rules to expand. We're a mixed use community and a historic community for the most part. Those are our two buckets. But that's really, there's so much change in here, so much change. If you had just done storefronts and, you know, small things, that's one thing, but you're doing everything from the ground floor to the roof. Upper floor commercial activity includes rooftops. It's really overwhelming, and I don't think you're doing the public any fairness if, by not like, I would wish that the city, when they were doing zoning text proposals, did a working group with community boards as much as they did with the entities who are looking to advocate for change. Because certainly that would make the conversations that we have a little bit easier when they come out. Because there's so many quality of life concerns that I don't see at all in here. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not the first citywide zoning text amendment or large zoning issue application we've ever dealt with. And I'm thinking of, you know, even back to MIH C2A, we had the text, we had the information, we had the application materials well in advance of certification, and we had a lot of time to study it and go through it. If this is certifying, if this is referring out to the community boards in October, we don't have the ability to even see the application materials yet, that's a big problem. So I hope you'll relay that concern, and I can get that information pronto.
Absolutely.
Right?
For sure, yeah. We will do that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move on to what was the first item on our agenda, which is an application by 15 Cliff Street LLC, a presentation by Mr. Prue here for a city planning chairperson's certification to allow the existing open air cafe operated as the hole in the wall to continue as a permitted obstruction plaza.
Let me get the information.
Here on behalf of the applicant is Land Use Council Paul Prue. Tammy's pulling that up. Paul, do you mind showing up? Giving us a presentation.
Well, did anyone be here? I've been a while.
Yes.
You have. It's great, isn't it?
What's it like?
Yeah.
I've
Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
never,
Maybe just want to flip through the first couple slides. Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Prue. I'm here with Brendan Guerrero from Brookfield on behalf of the ownership at 15 Cliff Street. The introduction that Patrick just gave you, the keyword there is continued. It's nothing that we're asking for here today that will allow for a new condition to occur. This is an existing urban plaza. It's a 3,500 square foot plaza that in the year 2000, when the building was built at 15 Cliff, resulted in a 21,000 square foot bonus. So it's a bonusable plaza. It's a 1-to-6 ratio in bonusable square footage that allowed for the building to have a couple of extra stories. Within that open plaza area, which, by the way, we came to you about 6 years ago on with a design change that rehabilitated the plaza and brought it up to date with some new landscaping done by Weintraub Diaz Landscape Architects. And we think they did a fine job with that. Within that beautifully designed plaza space is this 297 square foot open air cafe with 12 seats that are pertinent to the hole in the wall cafe. It's a New Zealand coffee house in the day, and then they serve wine in the evenings. But it enlivens this area of the plaza. And in addition to that, there's all this other space. It takes up about 8.5% of the plaza space as a permitted obstruction. And because it's a permitted obstruction, we are here to ask for a 3-year additional period of time to operate it in that same location. So that's, yeah, you can kind of look through it just to get an idea of the space if you're not familiar with it. There's the entrance to the building. Cafes here in the corner. So, keep asking, you want to go ahead?
It's fine.
All right.
It's fine. Nice spot.
Well, all we're voting on is whether to let the cafe reopen for 3 more years.
That's right. It's a required certification that comes
Okay.
out. We'll be here again in 3 years.
Okay, so why wouldn't we? Are they good people?
So,
They're a beloved.
So, okay.
Small business. That's one thing.
Can we go, mind if we start?
Not at all.
Questions,
Not at
Allison and Joe?
You know, it came up before, I just want to make sure, I think it's a lovely, area. There's 2 tables and 4 chairs that are given over to the public.
that's right. Those are 2 tables, 2 movable tables, 4 movable chairs for seating, but all of this is
Right.
seating as well.
But I meant just, yeah.
So those are not part of the cafe.
What happens if someone from the general public who doesn't want to get a coffee in that restaurant sits at those tables? How do they control that?
I believe they can demand to continue seating whether they order anything or not. It's the way it works. And I think there's a sign to that effect as well.
Thanks.
It's a great place. I go there every now and then, and we should have more places, more places like that around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
No,
questions?
thank you.
Sounds not too controversial.
Call the question.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see if there's anyone online with questions. All right.
Everybody's okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Mary Ann has her hand raised.
Not get that dry cleaner open.
Mary Ann has her hand
Good.
Mary Ann?
I'll just second that opinion. It's otherwise a pretty dull street, so any life there is a good thing.
This is not so bad.
Why don't we let this,
Yeah.
make this happen?
Okay, so all in favor? Anyone opposed? Recusals? One recusal? Any abstentions?
Vicky, in order to vote, you must have your camera on.
Who's
I
that?
vote aye, Richard here.
Thank you, Richard. I see Joel, I see Paul. Vicky, are you voting?
Joel,
Am,
Yeah.
it's an aye. I apologize. Yes.
Joel votes yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right. 2 more items on our agenda. One, item number 3 is proposed legislation to toll community board referral periods between August 1st, August 31st each year. This is something that I sort of came up with Tammy during
There was.
Netta abstained.
Netta, thank you.
Uh,
Are you abstaining or recusing?
Sorry, recusing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, okay, keep going.
During the summer when we had a section 195 office space lease renewal application come into our office. Look, not a big deal in and of itself, but what bothered me and what continues to bother other committees and our committee is when we get certifications from the Department of City Planning or other applications that are either certified very late in July or even during August when we're off. And the response has always been, well, we certify them when we certify them. We can't ask applicants to wait. We can't put them over to September. This came up with 60 Wall Street interior issue as well. And as I thought about it a little bit more, we're not asking that they not certify the applications, if the applications not be considered in due course. We're asking that the time for us to consider them, that the clock stop, that the legal term is tolled. So it shouldn't be that hard, I would think, for for there to be legislation. We would ask for the borough president and council member to carry that legislation to amend the city charter to just to simply toll those periods. And I came up with this today. I'll just kind of show this screen if I can. A second here. This would be the extent of the edits that I think would get it done. I never sent it to you, so I'm sorry.
You log in, I'll make you a person.
Might take too long. Let's not figure it out. Figure out how to do forward it. Alright, well, anyway, everybody, best I can here. Don't mind that. So this is, no good deed. This is, section 2800, which is chapter 70 of the city charter. This is what establishes the community boards, and there's really two sections, 2800 and 2801. There are two small amendments that I would propose adding, which is in two spaces, we would add language that says, provided, however, that the time for such community board's review of any capital project or any other application presented to such community board shall be told for the period of time during the months of July and August during which such community board does not need to conduct business. Some of you may have caught the July reference. In the text, some community boards are allowed to take July off instead of August. So this would just track to whatever time periods those community boards are not meeting to conduct business, that the time period will be told. I didn't offer it up as a resolution, but just thought I would throw it out there to see if there's a sense of the committee, and if there is, I would ask Chairperson and I meet or relay the message to our city council member, the borough president, to see whether this is something that's doable. Michael?
I very much support this. This is something Howard Hughes has used as a tactic where they schedule it during the summer when no one's around.
I wanted to ask a question. Does that apply for rulemaking as well? Because one of the things that we have, I don't know if people are aware, but there's a new rulemaking and the public comment periods for rulemaking are only 30 days. So there's new rulemaking about allowing cargo bikes to be loading and unloading on sidewalks, and the deadline is in 2 days. So we cannot discuss it in committee and have a full board resolution because public comment closes on the public hearing on September 13th, because it was referred out in August. So if that included rulemaking, I would be thrilled, because a lot of people don't know that this is happening. I'm going to send an email if I get to it tonight when I get home to get people, if they can't go to the hearing on Wednesday, to at least be able to comment. But again, this goes back to what happened to the community board with nobody knew about 60 Wall. I mean,
That's an interesting example, and I know I mentioned it to Patrick. The 60 Wall, as an example, we all met and wrote a resolution. So and there was no requirement, as we've since learned, that the Department of City Planning let us know that there was going to be a vote on that post-referral review. So would this change that condition of the borough?
I don't think it would, because that was just a mere notification of something that we would have otherwise maybe heard about, maybe not heard about. So all this would do is just stop the clock. So when we say we're on the 60-day clock, a 45-day clock, a 30-day clock, it would just pause it until we come back. It wouldn't prevent the city from taking whatever actions it might otherwise take within that time period, including reviewing applications, referring them out. It just gives us time where we don't have to worry about that it's sitting sort of in the inbox. Because I think we would probably get a lot of pushback, and I don't know that it would even pass if we would say, basically all city business that might affect the community board has to stop for those 30 or 60 days. I think that probably would be able to get one. But I think this is probably a good result, even though I don't know it would have affected, I don't think there's any legislation that would have affected that specific.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be unreasonable to put July and August. I think it would be more reasonable to say July or August if there are certain community boards that take on.
Yeah, that's why I was tracking the language from earlier in the, I don't know, earlier in the charter section. It refers to July and August for the months during which community boards. It says a community board basically have to have one meeting every month except for the months of July and August. So what's effectively doing is saying, community board, you can pick one of those months where you're not gonna conduct business.
Right.
It should probably stay or, but I think anything that tracks it should say
Right.
and.
The reason why it has to match is if a community board takes 1 month off, we operate on a 1 to 30.
Yeah.
Not all community boards do. There are a lot of community boards who operate on a 15 to 15, so they may be off from, July, they may be off from, from the 30th to the 15th, and then be back and then be off for 2 weeks from the other end.
And
So
the
it's different.
real operative language that I'm proposing is during which such community board does not need to conduct business. So whatever time period that is, that they establish by the bylaws or whatever it may be, but that's the period they're getting the total.
But how does that work? If it's an application that's affecting more than one board.
Yeah.
How do you manage that overlap?
Well, presumably they'll be aligned either in July or August, so it wouldn't be able to go through until our time has expired. So if a board, let's say it's a citywide zoning text amendment with a 30-day review period, and some boards have off in July, the affected agency or the applicant would have to understand that it may take up to 60 days, depending on how the community board's calendar is on.
I don't know, I feel like it would be wrong to hold up potential work for 60 days. Like 30 days obviously is understandable, but 60 days seems like a really long period of time to pull things out.
So I'll put it back to you this way. We're off for the month of August.
Yeah.
If there was any kind of an action that came forward that would have affected the Brooklyn banks.
Yeah.
That got referred out.
Yeah.
On July 29th,
Mhm.
we would not, unless we had to call an emergency meeting, then it's an executive meeting. And it is not actually ratified until September anyway, so.
No, but in that scenario, for instance, then going back to Alice's point, it's a local issue, right? So it's not
Maybe it's something about all
triggering the
bridges.
60.
Maybe, you don't know, maybe it's something about all bridges and the arches. I'm using
I-
a real
right.
language.
I think in the case of where you're gonna have something that affects more than one community board,
Yeah,
most times the applicant is gonna be the city.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, take away, what's the rush for this particular? What's another 30 days gonna hurt in a situation like zoning for economic opportunity, for example?
The election cycle.
It's not our concern.
I mean, isn't there a way to make the language, well, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's the point of the community boards is to protect communities and, right? And so we need to have time, they need to schedule things so that we review them when our meetings are calendared and our calendar is made public.
And by the way, I'm not aware of any community boards that take July instead of August off.
I can double check.
I mean, I don't know, we work with a lot of community boards and August is considered like, oh, don't, you better get it done before August.
Right.
That's the standard, because
Yeah.
we still have borough board in July as well.
So the bylaws require 1 month off by the community
The
board.
city charter requires,
Sorry, the city, yeah, that's interesting. Now that's kind of cool.
and I believe by bylaws, our board has been.
We go without pay.
What?
We go without pay.
There are questions online? Thoughts?
No, but I'm in complete agreement with what you're proposing, Patrick.
Thank you.
Me too.
All right, I'll give a quick brief update to folks at the full board, and make sure. I didn't calendar for a resolution, but if folks want to do it by resolution.
I think that that's the best way to handle it.
Think so?
Yes,
Okay.
then it's more official.
So can I get a motion?
I make the motion.
My second.
Second, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Those opposed, any recusals? Any abstentions? And if you're online, opposing, recusing, or abstaining, please just unmute and let us know. Okay. Thanks. The last item we have are our budget, capital expense budget items for 2025 already, my goodness. There's a link to the 2024 responses that hopefully everyone got in Lucy's reminder. I printed them out. I'll just be honest, it's a little difficult for me to pick out which ones are specific to land use. But if there are any in these 2024 requests and responses that folks want to flag or want us to deal with, you don't have to tell me right now, but just email me over the next week or so.
Is there a way to, I remember in previous years, we had that online version where you could organize them per committee and it just
You should be able to do that on the view. Let me see if I can find it.
no, it's a PDF doc, so you can't actually get in there.
I thought the one in the link was a spreadsheet, but I couldn't get it downloaded, but it
No,
looked like a spreadsheet.
what I got was,
The one that was shared today.
oh, there's one today.
Yeah, but I couldn't download it, so somebody could send it.
The one I have is a spreadsheet that our internet should share with you and me.
I see, well, I wasn't able to download that one for some weird reason.
Who was the email from?
Lucy, would have been this morning. At 9:01 a.m., reminder land use zoning economic development. But Rose, I remember what you're talking about. I haven't seen that version this round.
Well, if it's a spreadsheet, you can sort however you want.
Yeah,
the
no,
Excel spreadsheet.
no, this isn't, the one from 9:01 this morning brings up a PDF file.
Right, but if it's a live
Not-
spreadsheet, then you sort it.
Yeah, it's not a live spreadsheet. Is my point, so you can't sort. And even if you could, it's not separated out by committee, which would make it a lot easier.
She did separate it by committee and send her.
Yeah, and the PDF that went out this morning actually came in access.
That's the one I can access, but it's not separated out.
We'll have to bring up items from earlier in the agenda,
For what?
items from earlier in the agenda.
Sure.
Tammy, I thought what you said about city planning, telling us how those changes would impact our neighborhood was really right on. I mean, I think they need to get really specific with us. And is there a way to call city, like, is there a way to?
I think that's part of the conversations that we need to have, but I do think that I would appreciate the support from anybody on the committee writing a letter or an email to me and copying the borough president's office on it, because quite frankly, it's very different. We work, all the chairs kind of are in touch with each other, but what's different in CB 6, 7, and 8 is so vastly different than down here.
Totally.
It's a little petrifying. And pursuant to what Joel was saying online, you know, if you're gonna, yeah, we all like the work from home thing, I get that, but if you're doing a casting call or you're modeling, you know, and you've got 100 people a day coming into an apartment building, I don't care if it's a doorman elevator or a walk-up,
No, I agree with you.
we can't do Airbnb with people in their homes, but you can run a business that's not Airbnb, with hundreds of people coming in and out. I mean,
No, I think that they need to come to us and really explain what this would mean in our neighborhood. Like, what are they really talking about?
Okay, so on the budget items, I'm not able to even get to the PDF, let alone be able to sort anything.
Yeah.
I'll work with Lucy tomorrow, and
Thank
email
you.
out to the committee sort of a version, or at least one that's segregated just to land use. If everyone can just review that. Tell me if there's anything that we need to add. Michael, I see your email, that we're on record for a Seaport Park, Seaport Piers Recreation Center. Great point, thank you. So if there's anything that's not on that list that you need to make sure we get added, just email me more on them.
And could we just get confirmation, clarification? I think I asked this at one of our prior meetings of if there is a number limitation of how many budget items we can submit, because I feel like this keeps happening every year.
There's no limit.
There were,
I thought there was a limit.
I don't think so.
Sky's not the limit.
They don't fund them anyway, so I should.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
So like, I'm wondering if they get more serious. Like if you submit, like if they basically are saying submit 50 and you submit 105, then do they basically look at the fact that you submitted 105 and go?
So the whole point of the budget, it goes along with the district needs, I guess, in a way. The whole point of the budget requests is prioritizing the needs of the district. It's one of our charter mandated functions. So, you could submit 150, but, you know, there's a necessity in sort of ranking them. I don't even know if we still rank them necessarily,
Did
but
we have a number one need last year?
I don't think we did that anymore. I think the city did away with that by grouping now.
correct, it only groups by agency and it goes to
Right.
everything that you put in.
Right.
So there's no limit, but, there is
But I mean,
bandwidth for their attention if you want to look at it that way.
I mean, ideally, wouldn't we prioritize so that we get something as opposed to just
Yes.
like bombardment?
I think the ones that we've been on record for and that are most important to the community, we do put those first to have a little bit more of a fulsome description. What are the agency's response? We come at them with resolution. We keep on those things for sure. We don't just put in a request and plus a thing.
So since we're land use and zoning, like higher, we have ones that are specific to zoning now, or like what's an example? of-
Well, so one example would be, is within the economic development, corporation's purview at Sussex Seaport area, would be the, Seaport Piers Recreation
About
Center.
it.
We've, I think, in the past, we've asked for certain planning initiatives, that sort of thing.
And I apologize that I can't find where that budget thing ends. And looking.
I don't want to hold everybody up. I'll follow up with Lucy, get it out to everybody and just have a look and, let us know if anything's missing. Or conversely, if anything really, you think, hey, that's just dead, take it off.
What's the hard deadline?
It has to be added online by October, and then at the executive, you review it in committee in October. And then in executive committee, you go through everybody's stuff. It's a long meeting, and then you pass a resolution supporting the budget, and then that goes to full board.
And will we be able to get any of the agency reps to come in to update us on why?
All the agency responses for everything that we have logged for year 23 or 24 are already online. They're in that giant Airtable doc.
Yeah.
And so you can see, that's what we had the interns do also, in part of the work this summer. They loaded every agency's response. In particular, you want to take a look at something that says either needs more information, because that means that we need to redefine it, or this isn't our agency, this should go here, all of those things. But for land use very specifically, obviously, You could do everything from like, I personally think that they should have a land use consultant for every community board that the city pays for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they
Um, But, you know, we are also land use zoning
Yeah.
and economic development, so we could, you know, be putting in there stuff about small business development if we wanted to do a small business zone.
Yeah.
We wanted more green infrastructure that kind of goes on the, you know, side here and crosses over into EPC, but making sure that it hits an agency.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there.
Thank you.
Weather.
Thank you. Good night.
Um,